No orders. Hold your position. Don't break formation. The sharp command cracked across the cramped forward operations room. At the far end, Claire Monroe, a brown-haired sniper with years of dust and combat in her eyes, quietly stripped her rifle down piece by piece. No orders came. No mission was handed to her. Most of the men didn't even look her way. They only knew the name whispered behind her. Depict, the widow, because she always seemed to arrive after the fight was already lost. But hours later, when Raven's Ridge lit up in a sudden explosion from a hidden ambush, Claire was already in position. Her shot split the chaos before anyone could react. How did she see it coming when no one else did? If you saw a sniper break orders but save the unit, would you call her a hero or a problem? The temporary forward base at Redwater Sector 14 was humming with preparation. Battalions were gathering, gear stacked in neat rows, maps spread over dusty tables. This wasn't just another mission. This cross-border operation would define careers and end lives. In a far corner of the camp sat a woman few dared to approach. Her brown hair brushed just past her shoulders, her frame lean from years of field rations and restless movement. Her silence carried a weight that made even seasoned Marines shift uncomfortably. Her name, Claire Monroe. No one knew her current assignment or even her rank. Her weathered combat uniform bore no insignia, no unit patch, just a faded name tape. So worn it looked like it had survived more deployments than most of the men here. Her only personal possession was an old SR-99 sniper rifle, a relic from another era, maintained with immaculate precision. On the rifle's stock, carefully engraved, "Return if I fall. Recalibrate if I survive." Claire wasn't on any squad roster. No platoon. No position on the tactical chart. And yet she'd been on this base for 3 days, and nobody had asked her to leave. The soldiers had a name for her, the Widow. It was what they called people who always arrived after the battle was over, counting the fallen, analyzing what went wrong, not preventing it. The unwanted attention. In the coordination area, a young staff officer finally noticed her presence and barked out, "Who cleared her into the command zone?" "This is classified." Claire lifted her head from the map she'd been studying, her voice calm even, but laced with something that silenced the room. "I don't need command codes. I just need to make sure I don't miss the signs again." Her words hung in the air, cold, certain, impossible to challenge. Habits nobody questioned. Her daily routine never changed. Every morning she positioned herself at elevated watch points around the base perimeter. Her ears were tuned to backup radio frequencies others ignored. She studied old drone footage and reconnaissance reports long filed away. Young soldiers sometimes approached with questions. She answered briefly but with precision. Once a lieutenant asked, "Ma'am, which unit were you with before you got here?" Claire's answer stopped the chatter across the room. "I'm the only one left from that unit. The rest are in bags because someone missed something that mattered." Nobody asked her again. The woman who was always watching. Her habits unsettled people. She spent hours poring over maps of failed missions, studying casualty reports, dissecting after-action reviews. Her rifle maintenance bordered on obsessive. Every screw cleaned. Every scope recalibrated daily. Her ammunition counted twice. Then twice again. In the mess hall, she always sat alone, always facing the perimeter. Always with a clear line of sight to the approach routes. Other snipers whispered theories. Some said she only appeared at forward bases after major combat losses. Others claimed she had an unnatural sense for enemy movements. Nobody asked her directly. Something in her steady gaze warned them off. A role she refused. The base commander once tried assigning her to the 1st Squad Sniper section. She declined, polite but firm. "I work better without constraints." "And what exactly is your military specialty?" The commander pressed. Her answer was as cold as it was clear. "Preventing deaths that should have been prevented. But only after I've already failed once, the night before the operation." That night, while others slept, Claire climbed to the base's highest watchtower. Her rifle swept the terrain, not hunting, just watching. Protecting people who didn't know they needed protection. A perimeter guard noticed her silhouette. He radioed the duty officer. "Unknown sniper on Tower 7. Should I order her down?" The crackling reply came back. "Negative. Leave her alone. She's not hurting anyone." Claire heard it all. She monitored every frequency. Her voice was barely a whisper as she looked through her scope into the darkness. "Not yet. But I will stop them this time." Her eyes didn't blink. "Once I got orders 4 minutes too late. I spent the next week collecting dog tags from 6 people I called family. Something the drones missed. The night before the operation, she caught something odd, electronic interference near Hill 9. It was the planned withdrawal route after the assault. She compiled a report, signal analysis, frequency patterns, tactical implications. Intelligence dismissed it immediately. Insufficient evidence to alter plans. Latest drone flyover shows no enemy movement. But Claire saw something the sensors didn't. The low-altitude winds were running against forecast, masking movement. The drone's sensors were being fooled. She didn't wait for approval. She took her gear and climbed to observation post 12, a foyer. Rocky outcrop with direct line of sight to the ridge, and she waited. Raven's Ridge, just at the maximum effective range for her aging SR-99 rifle. Early morning light spilled across the valley as the advance reconnaissance team crossed. Checkpoint Alpha, right on schedule. Radio chatter confirmed all units were moving according to plan. From her perch at observation point 12, Claire Monroe studied the terrain through the magnified glass of her scope. Her heartbeat was steady, her breath controlled. Then she saw it, a faint glint. Metallic, geometric, not sunlight on rock. Her scope adjusted a fraction of an inch, and there it was, the distinctive profile of a shoulder-fired launcher tube, carefully blended into the ridge's natural formations. No time for protocols. There was no time for standard radio calls. No open frequency to warn the recon team. No authorization to fire, especially outside the planned fire support envelope. Claire didn't hesitate. Her first shot cracked across the morning air. The round struck the enemy sniper cleanly between the eyes. Precision forged from years of experience and desperate necessity. 3 seconds later, the hillside erupted. The hidden mine cache detonated prematurely. Fire and rock raining down before friendly forces stepped into the kill zone. Command in chaos. The scout team's radio discipline disintegrated into confusion. The Tactical Operations Center exploded with competing voices. Who authorized weapons fire? Did anyone clear that shot? Forward elements, report. What's going on? A squad leader's voice cut through the noise. That was the widow. She's on observation point 12. Nobody assigned her there. The operation stops cold. The entire battalion halted. 15 tense minutes passed as recon elements swept the area. They discovered evidence of 4 separate ambush sites. Professional-grade firing positions. Interlocking fields of fire. Synchronized explosive devices. These weren't random traps. This was a planned slaughter. Radio traffic became a storm of questions. How did one person catch what our entire intel section missed? Why wasn't this threat in the briefing? Who authorized a civilian sniper to occupy firing positions? The operation stops cold. The entire battalion halted. 15 tense minutes passed as recon elements swept the area. They discovered evidence of 4 separate ambush sites. Professional-grade firing positions. Interlocking fields of fire. Synchronized explosive devices. Raven's Ridge, just at the maximum effective range for her aging SR-99 rifle. Early morning light spilled across the valley as the advance reconnaissance team crossed. Checkpoint Alpha, right on schedule. Radio chatter confirmed all units were moving according to plan. From her perch at observation point 12, Claire Monroe studied the terrain through the magnified glass of her scope. Her heartbeat was steady, her breath controlled. Then she saw it, a faint glint. Metallic, geometric, not sunlight on rock. Her scope adjusted a fraction of an inch, and there it was, the distinctive profile of a shoulder-fired launcher tube, carefully blended into the ridge's natural formations. No time for protocols. There was no time for standard radio calls. No open frequency to warn the recon team. No authorization to fire, especially outside the planned fire support envelope. Claire didn't hesitate. Her first shot cracked across the morning air. The round struck the enemy sniper cleanly between the eyes. Precision forged from years of experience and desperate necessity. 3 seconds later, the hillside erupted. The hidden mine cache detonated prematurely. Fire and rock raining down before friendly forces stepped into the kill zone. Command in chaos. The scout team's radio discipline disintegrated into confusion. The Tactical Operations Center exploded with competing voices. Who authorized weapons fire? Did anyone clear that shot? Forward elements, report. What's going on? A squad leader's voice cut through the noise. That was the widow. She's on observation point 12. Nobody assigned her there. The operation stops cold. The entire battalion halted. 15 tense minutes passed as recon elements swept the area. They discovered evidence of 4 separate ambush sites, professional-grade firing positions, interlocking fields of fire, synchronized explosive devices. These weren't random traps, this was a planned slaughter. Radio traffic became a storm of questions. How did one person catch what our entire intel section missed? Why wasn't this threat in the briefing? Who authorized a civilian sniper to occupy firing positions? The operation stops cold. The entire battalion halted. 15 tense minutes passed as recon elements swept the area. They discovered evidence of 4 separate ambush sites, professional-grade firing positions, interlocking fields of fire, synchronized explosive devices, enemy sniper eliminated. 4 firing positions identified and marked. Recommend immediate route change and fresh reconnaissance before proceeding. Static filled the air before Battalion Command responded. This is Battalion Command. State your authority for independent action. The radio went silent for a long beat. Then Claire Monroe's voice cut through, steady, calm, deliberate. My authority? I refuse to watch more men become casualties. If I see the pattern, I identify it. I stop it, and I collect. EOD findings. Minutes later, the explosive ordnance disposal team reached Raven's Ridge. What they found sent a cold shiver through command. Remotely triggered explosives perfectly placed for maximum casualties. Coordinated sniper nest with overlapping fields of fire. Encrypted comm systems tuned for synchronized attack. Without Claire's interference, the withdrawal route through Raven's Ridge would have become a killing field. The advance element, possibly the entire recon team, would have been wiped out. The question nobody could answer. But one question lingered in every officer's mind. How had one unauthorized sniper detected a threat that satellite reconnaissance missed, drone sweeps missed, the battalion's own intel section failed to see? The confrontation at Point 12. The battalion commander climbed the ridge himself, boots grinding into the shale as he approached observation Point 12. He found Claire seated cross-legged, rifle across her lap, methodically cleaning it as though nothing unusual had happened. I need a full explanation, he demanded. Your actions. Your authority. All of it. She didn't rush her answer. She looked up from the rifle, her voice even, eyes locked with his. The enemy was set exactly like Hill 27. Same timing, same mistakes. 3 years ago at Hill 27, my unit died. Because I waited for authorization that came 4 minutes after the shooting stopped. The commander froze. Hill 27 wasn't in any of the current operational files. The weight in her voice. He studied her expression and instinctively stepped back. This wasn't defiance. It was the quiet, immovable weight of survivor's responsibility, carried by someone who had been on the wrong side of the delay before. You had no legal authority to... Claire cut him off, her voice sharper now. I had no moral authority to watch it happen again. What the recordings proved. Later analysis of battlefield recordings confirmed what everyone suspected. Her shot was timed with surgical precision. 1 second earlier, the target wouldn't have been exposed. 1 second later, the ambush would have detonated successfully. This wasn't just sharp shooting. This was someone who understood the entire tactical situation in motion. Pattern recognition born from combat experience, no. Algorithm could duplicate. The intelligence failure wasn't technological. It wasn't procedural. It was experiential. Claire had knowledge that couldn't be programmed into a drone, and couldn't be taught in any military school. The promise over Graves. When the commander asked her again about orders, her voice dropped almost to a whisper. I don't need official orders or authorization. I have a promise I made over 6 graves. If I see the pattern again, I will not let it repeat. Act 3, deleted files. After the tactical units withdrew from Raven's Ridge, Battalion Command initiated a full review of Claire's service record. What they found wasn't standard restricted access. Her personnel file was locked under black-level encryption protocols, the classification reserved for programs that don't officially exist. The only detail visible in her record was a single cryptic note. Reason for separation, team lost. Nothing more. For the file contained only a single line. Echo 5, declassified authorization level pending review. That was it. No history. No assignments. No, the file contained only a single line. Echo 5, declassified authorization level pending review. That was it. No history. No assignments, no awards. The digging begins. Through painstaking work, archived radio transmissions, fragmented operation reports, intel officers, began to piece together a shadow of her past. It wasn't much, but it was enough to identify her unit, Echo Viper, an elite specialized task force focused on electronic warfare countermeasures, anti-ambush operations, deep reconnaissance in hostile sectors. Their area of operation, the contested Polestar 6 corridor, a sector so volatile that even official records spoke in vague, careful language. The mission that changed everything. Roughly 3 years earlier, during a classified Echo Viper mission, her team detected anomalous electronic activity, signal spikes that pointed to an enemy preparing coordinated ambush positions. They had the pattern, they had the proof, but they didn't have the authority. Engagement orders never arrived in time. Command hesitated. Protocol demanded explicit clearance from higher authority. By the time the order came, it was 4 minutes too late. The cost of 4 minutes. 6 highly trained operators gone, every single one of them members of Echo Viper. The sole survivor, Claire Monroe, aftermath. Following an extensive debriefing and mandatory psychological evaluation, Claire refused all subsequent official assignments. She wouldn't take orders the same way again. Not after what she'd seen. Instead, she operated exclusively under silent response. Protocols, an obscure classification that allowed her limited autonomous authority. No official attachment to any unit, direct reporting only to theater-level command. Her authority wasn't written in standard orders. It was granted quietly, and unofficially, by someone far higher in the chain. The classified memo from theater command was short. In situations where standard communication is compromised or unavailable, you are authorized to take protective action, provided the primary objective remains, the preservation of friendly lives. Claire Monroe had never invoked that extraordinary authorization. Not once. Not until Raven's Ridge. The investigation into Echo Viper's last mission. As the battalion dug deeper, more disturbing truths emerged. Echo Viper wasn't just an elite unit. It was the electronic warfare and anti-ambush unit for the Polestar sector. A team trusted with missions no other squad could pull off. Claire served as their primary designated marksman and communications intelligence specialist. The mission that should have been routine. The operation that destroyed Echo Viper was supposed to be a standard patrol. Intel painted a clear picture. Enemy patrol routes mapped and confirmed. 0 hostile activity reported for weeks. It should have been clean. It wasn't. The anomalies. During the pre-mission brief, Claire noticed encrypted comm bursts, short, sharp, and coming from areas marked as empty on their maps. The radio signatures didn't match any friendly or neutral force. She filed her report. Command's reply came back immediate and dismissive. Equipment malfunction. False readings. Proceed as planned. The ambush. Echo Viper advanced on schedule. When Claire requested clearance to check suspicious terrain, her request was denied. Maintain assigned positions. Hold fire unless fired upon. Then the trap snapped shut. The ambush hit with surgical precision. Multiple firing positions. Overlapping kill zones. Perfect synchronization. 5 of the most experienced operators in the theater were gone within 30 seconds. Why she survived? Claire survived because she hadn't followed the formation exactly as ordered. Technically, she disobeyed direct instructions, but her instincts and her growing distrust of clean intel had put her out of the kill zone when the first volley struck. Operating alone, she moved fast and struck harder. Over the next 47 minutes, she eliminated 12 enemy combatants, using precision shooting and relentless mobility, holding position until reinforcing units arrived. The official story. The after-action report, immediately classified at the highest security levels. Public records showed only equipment failure during routine patrol. Personnel lost. Unofficially, word spread among field units. Command had ignored early warning signs, and Echo Viper paid the price. The Hill 27 parallel. During her post-mission psychological evaluation, Claire was asked why she hadn't routed the Raven's Ridge threat through proper channels. Her answer was recorded word for word. If I'd waited for confirmation, 2 full squads would have walked straight into a kill zone. I made a choice. Not to have more names I'd be responsible for reading at a memorial. The assessment. The psychological report on Claire's post-Echo Viper state was unsettling. Subject demonstrates exceptional tactical situational awareness, a deep distrust of intelligence assessments, and an uncompromising priority on the preservation of friendly lives, even at the expense of operational protocol. The psychological review on Claire Monroe was blunt. Subject demonstrates exceptional tactical awareness, coupled with a severe distrust of higher command decision-making processes. The recommendation was clear. Supports independent, operational deployment with minimal administrative oversight, the note in the margin. But someone else had added a handwritten note in the margin, detail most officers would have missed. She recognizes tactical patterns others miss, consistently. Don't bury that capability in bureaucratic procedure. That note wasn't from a junior officer. It was written by General Nathaniel Briggs, the theater commanding general. The general's visit. Weeks later, General Briggs made a quiet, unannounced visit to the forward operating base. The troops didn't know why he was there, but his purpose was singular. He'd come to see Claire. Their conversation took place behind closed doors. Its contents remain classified to this day. The statement he did make public. When the general emerged, he didn't speak about specifics, but he did address the gathered officers and senior NCOs. Military effectiveness requires different kinds of soldiers. Some excel at following orders to the letter. Others have the judgment to prevent situations that would require those orders. Both are essential. He didn't name her. He didn't need to. Everyone at the FOB knew exactly who he was talking about. After General Briggs's quiet but unmistakable endorsement, no one questioned Claire Monroe's tactical calls again. Her authority wasn't in any manual. Her orders weren't stamped through normal channels. But everyone knew, when Claire spoke, you listened. The ghost in the chain of command. Most personnel didn't fully understand her status. Technically, she wasn't part of any battalion's roster. In practice, she had become an autonomous operator. A sniper whose lethal skill and personal motivation outranked protocol. Her loyalty wasn't to paperwork. It was to mission success, and to the lives she could still save. Observation Point 12. At Observation Point 12, where she often set up alone, quiet gestures began to appear. A sealed pack of coffee left on the railing, a box of match-grade rounds, a folded note with nothing but "thanks for keeping watch" written on it. Claire never acknowledged the gifts. She never removed them either. Over time, that small stack became a kind of unofficial memorial, a silent marker of respect from the enlisted ranks, who knew she was watching their backs. The stories spread. Her reputation traveled quickly through the unofficial channels. Emails, campfire talk, comm chatter. They called her the Guardian. A sniper who worked without official orders, but always seemed to be in the right place before things went wrong. Some stories became the stuff of legend. That she could predict enemy movements hours ahead of time. That she made impossible long-range shots before threats even materialized. The truth was less mystical and more impressive. Pattern recognition. Claire had developed a kind of combat pattern recognition. Not taught in school, not listed in training manuals. She could read environmental cues, a silence in the wrong place, a radio frequency shift, a glint of metal that didn't belong. Standard intel often missed them. She didn't. The calculated risk. Operating outside the command chain came with its own danger. No institutional cover, no legal protection. Every action was her responsibility alone. But for Claire, that was the price of preventing deaths that didn't have to happen. Better to answer for acting too soon than burying someone because I waited. The medal she refused. 3 days after the Ravens Ridge incident, Claire received formal notice to report to headquarters for an accommodation ceremony. The commendation was for preventing significant casualties during combat operations. She declined. No explanation. When the admin officer processing her refusal asked why, she gave only one sentence. I don't take the shot for medals or ceremonies. I take the shot because I still hear the gunfire from 3 years ago. The day I couldn't act in time, that evening, Claire Monroe left the forward operating base. No departure paperwork. No transportation request. No formal sign-out. Just gone. The next morning's surprise. At first light, the communications coordination officer filed an unusual report. Observation Point 12 is still active. Optics are being adjusted. Recon data is being updated every 4 hours, exactly on protocol. But Claire wasn't on the roster anymore. She wasn't even officially assigned to any unit. An investigation up the tower. Confused, the base commander climbed the rickety steel ladder to Observation Point 12 himself. What he found wasn't a person, but it was evidence, clear, deliberate, and recent. Fresh water jugs. Recently cleaned optics. Detailed, time-stamped recon notes from the past 12 hours. No Claire. No sign of her leaving. Just a handwritten message taped to the spotting scope in block letters. Effective surveillance doesn't require official permission. Caring about personal safety doesn't need bureaucratic approval. The troops started calling it the Ghost Watch. Some swore she was still out there, somewhere beyond the wire working alone. Others said she'd moved from post to post, never staying in one place long enough to be caught, but always close enough to keep them alive. It started small, just accurate reports, not the kind that came from a bored intel officer glancing at a map. These were detailed, precise, and always right. Severe weather shifts before they hit. Equipment faults flagged before failure. Tactical adjustments that kept patrols alive. Every single one of them came from the same source. Observation Point 12. Unsigned. Unclaimed. But written by someone with professional military precision and someone who knew the terrain like they'd lived it. The name Guardian Tower. Rotating units passing through the forward. Operating base began calling it Guardian Tower. Everyone understood the truth. Somebody was up there. Somebody who stayed on watch day and night and had the skill and the will to keep them alive. The storm. Then came the thunderstorm. A storm bad enough to ground air support and scramble comms across half the sector. In the chaos, a recon patrol got separated from its main unit. One man injured, navigation unreliable, supplies running low. Rain hammering the ridge so hard they could barely hear each other over the static. The call for help. Emergency frequencies crackled, weak, broken, barely cutting through the weather. Echo team. Separated. Need bearings. It was picked up across multiple channels. They didn't know if anyone could hear them. Then a calm, professional voice cut through the static. Precise, unshaken. Echo team, mark your last confirmed position. You've got 11 minutes before the creek ahead floods. Bearing 228 will put you on the high ground. Follow the ridge until I call you to stop. They never asked who was talking. They didn't need to. Everyone knew. The voice on the emergency channel stayed calm, steady enough to cut through static and fear. Echo team bearing 228. Stay on the ridge. You've got 11 minutes before the water overtakes the low ground. Move now. The patrol followed the instructions through treacherous terrain. The rescue. By morning, the team emerged from the fog, mud-caked, exhausted, but alive. Their first request: we want to thank whoever pulled us out of there. But when duty officers checked the rosters, they came back with a strange answer. We had no one assigned to night coordination during the storm. The return to Guardian Tower. The commander climbed up Guardian Tower himself. What he found wasn't a person, just evidence. Fresh footprints in the mud, still warm. A half-empty thermos of coffee. Freshly calibrated optics. Someone had been there. Someone still was. The unseen guardian. Over the next weeks, more strange reports surfaced. Anonymous warnings about potential ambush sites. Tactical advice on vulnerable patrol phases. Professional corrections to security positioning. No signatures. No name. But the results spoke for themselves. Casualty. Rates in the sector dropped sharply. The mark on the map. In the Tactical Operations Center, a red triangle appeared on the sector map. Echo V position authorization override prohibited. Below it, scratched into the metal table, someone had carved, "She refused to wait for permission. She refused to accept preventable losses." The legacy. Years later, military colleges would analyze the Ravens Ridge engagement as a case study in individual initiative versus institutional protocol. They'd debate regulations, orders, chain of command, but they'd miss the real point. It wasn't about breaking rules. It was about someone willing to carry responsibility no one else wanted, simply because she couldn't bear to let history repeat. Observation Point 12 became legend. Young snipers and recon specialists would climb the old tower, hoping to understand how someone could protect so many lives without a single medal or official title. And the truth was always the same. Sometimes, saving lives means accepting a responsibility no one gives you. Her legacy wasn't written in medals or promotions. It lived in the men and women who came home alive because she was there. 42 soldiers made it home. Fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters. All because one woman refused to let history repeat itself. The final log entry. The last entry in the base operations log said it best. Some heroes wear dress uniforms and stand on a stage to receive medals. Others carry the weight of the people they couldn't save before, and quietly make sure it never happens again. Both serve their purpose. Only one sleeps through the night. Guardian Tower today. Observation point 12 still overlooks the valley. Officially, it's empty. Unofficially, it's never truly abandoned. The tower stands as a silent reminder that sometimes the best protection doesn't come from the system at all. It comes from someone who knows the cost when that system fails. The legacy that lives on. For those who served in that sector, the story isn't about breaking rules. It's about a quiet promise. Not on my watch. Not again. Her legacy isn't in medals or parades. It's in the men and women who walked off that field alive, and into the arms of the people waiting for them at home. If this story moved you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be remembered, the quiet acts of courage that history almost forgets, consider subscribing to American Valor Stories, because here we keep these moments alive. For the people who were there, and for those who never want to see them forgotten.